Humanity has faced countless historical disasters, some severe, some less so. But perhaps the most devastating disaster we've ever recorded is the Shadow World. When it appeared, everything was enveloped in a black mist. It seemed to devour everything it passed through, threatening humanity with extinction. Fortunately, this Shadow World has only appeared in a small area so far. To save humanity, we must conquer the Shadow World before it spreads everywhere. The source of all these terrible events is a massive dragon named Bomir. Many brave warriors have sacrificed themselves to save Earth, but none have succeeded. On the battlefield now, only our protagonist Desire and his 5 close comrades remain. Though 6 in number, they share a common goal: to eliminate the dragon Bomir and end the nightmares it has created for humanity. When Bomir was about to attack, one of them, Raphael, quickly raised his shield to block the assault. Fortunately, Desire effortlessly intercepted the attack. Bomir was surprised but refused to surrender. He continued, attempting to deliver a fatal blow to finish off everyone present. The dragon tried to accumulate an enormous amount of energy, but unexpectedly, Desire's power neutralized it. He shouted that he had analyzed the magical configuration and sealed all the dragon clan's magic. His comrades were thrilled to hear this. Then everyone charged forward to attack. Raphael ran ahead to block the dragon's tail attack. The others weren't idle either. One rushed forward to attack with a hammer, forcing the dragon to stand still and take the hit. Meanwhile, the mage Desire was in the back, channeling power to the swordswoman Azer. Thanks to this, she delivered a mighty sword strike that made the earth and sky tremble. After taking this blow, the dragon Bomir could not escape death and officially fell. The sky returned to its natural blue. Desire thought this earthly hell had finally ended. They would return to the real world to their families and loved ones. In the evening, the 6 gathered together. They reminisced about memories, reminding each other of what had happened over time. When the battle first began, 150 million brave people came here to challenge the vicious dragon Bomir. At the end of the battle, only 6 people remained, a terribly devastating loss. The comrades who had fought alongside Desire before had all perished on the battlefield. Thinking about them, about the difficulties and challenges they had overcome, Desire was deeply moved. One young woman praised Raphael for performing excellently in this battle, but he didn't take the glory for himself. He believed Desire had performed much better than he did. Hearing Raphael say this, the other teammates also acknowledged the protagonist's contribution to this life or death battle. A mage asked why Desire had such special abilities. His fighting power could be 2 or 3 times that of the survivors here, yet he had no fame or reputation in the kingdom at all. Desire was somewhat melancholic. The sunset's lingering light made him appear even more contemplative. He replied that he was just a commoner, so no one would notice him. Raphael changed the subject by asking what everyone would do for a living when they returned to the real world. The large man held out the artifacts of the fallen mages, expressing that he would return these relics to their families. Some wanted to return to the kingdom to care for those who had passed. The swordswoman Azer was somewhat cold. When asked about her plans, she turned away, unwilling to share with everyone. As for Desire, he suddenly remembered his close friend Romantica, who had sacrificed herself in battle. It seemed he hadn't escaped his grief, so he told everyone he had no plans yet. Suddenly, Bomir unexpectedly opened his eyes and moved, shocking everyone. They were all stunned, not understanding how it could regain consciousness. They had all seen it fall and die earlier. Who would have thought it would wake up now, with its magic restored and seemingly stronger than before? Jews said he had once read about dragons in an ancient magic book. In their hearts, there was not only blood, but also a large amount of magic. When a dragon dies, its blood may run out, but its magic doesn't. Now, the dragon's magic was being released and could cause the dragon to explode. It seemed this was the first time humans had ever defeated a dragon, so no one could predict this scenario. Indeed, since no one had experienced it before, no books recorded or guided what to do in this situation. According to Jew's preliminary assessment, he couldn't withstand the amount of magic the dragon was emitting. Desire tried to deploy reverse calculation magic to seal the explosion but failed because this was pure magic. Once released, it was difficult for anyone to stop it. Jews urged everyone to prepare themselves to deal with it. The team could only pray, but their defenses were insignificant. But for someone as unyielding and stubborn as Desire, he couldn't easily let his life slip away like this. At the same time, he wanted to save the comrades who had come this far with him. Perhaps because his resolve was so strong, he transcended the flow of time to return to the past. Opening his eyes again, he was surprised to find himself in an unfamiliar place. He was standing in front of a mirror, looking at his reflection, and was very surprised by how young he appeared. This appearance didn't match his current self. For a moment, Desire was astonished, not understanding what was happening here. Suddenly, applause erupted. People were eagerly awaiting someone's appearance. On stage, a beautiful professor named Bridget appeared. Those present couldn't take their eyes off her. Today was the opening day of a school called Hebron. This scene was very familiar to Desire. It seemed he had encountered it somewhere before. He remembered every word of the professor's speech. She said that all students must take the school's entrance exam, and only 600 exceptional individuals would become official students here. The exam question was practical, to complete the shadow world. Students were confused about how to handle this, so she explained that this shadow world wasn't real. It was created for the exams, and seniors from previous classes would help the new students partially. While everyone was excited, Desire was very surprised, not expecting this to happen to him. This moment was the enrollment ceremony at Hebron School in the year 3613, while the time when he fought the vicious dragon Bomir was in 3616. From then until 10 years later, he and his comrades had always been in the shadow world fighting the dragon god. Now that Desire had been reborn, he thought that the battle he had spent more than a decade fighting had no meaning left. Desire went outside the hall and sat dazed, as if someone had stolen his bags of rice. He reassured himself that this wasn't a dream but reality. At this point, a girl with short orange hair full of personality came to talk to him. Her name was Redoria Doric. Memories flooded back. Desire remembered she was his senior from the previous class, and in battle, she had supported him. Briefly, Doric was a genius mage. She had a fire attribute and was considered the most capable person in this academy. Seeing Desire looking worried, she comforted him that he didn't need to worry too much about the test. The purpose of the entrance exam was just to see if he had combat ability. Talking a bit more, Doric was quite surprised and somewhat apprehensive because Desire was just a commoner. Because of this status, Desire was only assigned to study in an ordinary class called Beta. Desire knew that the Hebron Academy heavily discriminated based on status. Children of nobles would study in advanced classes called Alpha, while commoners would only study in Beta classes. Regarding Beta classes, don't expect proper teaching. Many talented people studying at this school were mercilessly crushed. Doric urged Desire to quickly join everyone. At the hall entrance, Doric used her card to help Desire get in successfully, perhaps because he was already too familiar with this place. He wasn't too surprised when entering the hall. Seeing Desire with no reaction, very indifferent, Doric couldn't help but ask. He covered by saying he had seen such a beautiful building before, so he wasn't too surprised. As the two were leaving the hall, they encountered a nobleman named Elham. If Desire remembered correctly, he had a water attribute and was someone Doric bitterly hated. After an exchange of words between Doric and him, he left, not forgetting to mock Desire for being just a commoner studying in Beta class. Just then, the school's loudspeaker announced that the entrance exam was about to begin, requesting everyone to gather in the hall. Doric, still not calmed down, turned to Desire with a stern face, saying he must pass this exam. Desire only replied that he would try to bring back good news. These recent details further confirmed that he had been reborn once more. Everything was real. And what if he could meet someone very important to him? In the hall, Desire looked around but couldn't find her. At that moment, Romantica was behind him. Seeing her, Desire was very happy. Because in the previous battle, Romantica had sacrificed herself in his arms. This made Desire feel very guilty. So when given a second chance, he was determined to fix things, change the future, and protect this girl. He and Romantica met in the lobby. Desire expressed that seeing her safe and healthy made him very happy. But Romantica didn't understand what Desire was saying. She wondered if they had met before to speak so intimately. Desire said he had seen the notice board, and they were scheduled to take the exam together. Hearing this, Romantica hoped they would work hard together to win. Because of this, Desire had a latent power within him, determined to protect her. Since she had died in the death battle before, he carried a great sadness and remorse. Doric reminded him that he was in Group D, and his mission was to complete the shadow world at the elementary level. And she reminded him that this shadow world was just a simulation, so he should do his best. Elham appeared again. This time, he introduced the person he was in charge of as the girl known as the demon swordswoman Azer. More about Azer: she had an ice attribute. could use vision magic that couldn't be reverse calculated, was a reliable teammate, and a trustworthy person. With her usual taciturn demeanor, Azer didn't say a word to anyone. Elham gloated, laughing loudly, and didn't forget to tease Doric. With the attitude of a guide, Doric didn't allow Desire to give up against a strong opponent. The competition had begun. The participating contestants were present. Everyone carried full determination, not wanting to lose. The participants were brought into the shadow world. The organizers announced that they could use magic to hinder opponents, but couldn't attack others too severely. And after this competition, only 3 people would win. Everyone was eager to fight right away. The contestants stood behind the starting line. Desire glanced at Azer. According to his memory, it seemed she was the last one standing. With her cold, taciturn demeanor, Azer had read all of Desire's information on the notice board. She commented that his physical abilities were just average, and his magical abilities were the lowest. She told him he didn't need to be on guard because she didn't want to attack someone weaker than herself. The system was counting down to start. As soon as the signal ended, Azer rushed forward like the wind. Desire and Romantica started a bit later. Moreover, Romantica was distracted by cute creatures, so she wasn't fully focused on the competition. He remarked that she always liked such things, didn't she? But she thought he was flirting with her, so she was a bit annoyed. After running a bit, he noticed a trap ahead and pushed Romantica out of the way. The other person said he shouldn't worry about others' business. He would use his power to blow both of them away to teach them a lesson. Romantica wasn't one to be bullied like that. Seeing the other person using fire magic, she deployed wind magic. Both sides fought quite intensely. It seemed both would be injured or both would be fine, but Romantica quickly added another blow, causing the other to be eliminated from the competition immediately. News that 5 people remained on the map quickly reached Azer's ears. After the small battle, Romantica thanked Desire for saving her life. But this guy kept smiling, looking very flippant, which irritated her. Being left behind quite far, Romantica decided to deploy her magic. Her power was quite terrifying. Meanwhile, in the observation room, the judges commented that this year's contestants had great potential. Their power was extremely outstanding. Notable among them was Azer, and it was quite unfortunate for Desire, a commoner who had to compete in the same group as this swordswoman. Only one person among the judges looked forward to his performance. From her gaze, one could tell she had high expectations for our protagonist. Continuing with the competition, Azer was performing very well, consistently leading the race. Following her was a blonde guy. He thought at this rate, he would come in second. But life isn't easy for anyone. The wind created by Romantica's magic blew to where these two were. He stuck his sword into the ground, wanting to keep himself from being swept away. The wind was extremely strong, but with her power, Azer used her sword to cut through the wind, creating a path to continue moving forward. The guy following tried to imitate Azer's method, but before he could pull his sword out of the ground, a large tree flew over. Now, with only 3 people left on the map, Desire had passed the exam without needing to fight. It was thought that Desire and Romantica could be at peace with each other, but due to his attitude earlier, she decided to eliminate him from the competition out of frustration. Even though he tried his best to dissuade her, she still decided to attack him. And with a final bit of mercy, she asked if he wanted to beg her to spare him, but he refused, so she deployed many magic circles toward him and had them all attack at once. It seemed that after that attack, Desire would be eliminated from the competition, and if worse, he might meet his ancestors. But with his protagonist's aura, Desire still stood there. He was almost unharmed by her attack. Seeing this, Romantica was shocked. She couldn't believe that someone with the lowest level of magic wasn't even scratched after her powerful attack. Even more frustrating was that Desire had pointed out the weakness in her recent attack. Unwilling to accept defeat, Romantica deployed new magic, hoping to defeat him for good. Knowing he couldn't avoid it anymore, Desire used algorithms to deflect and neutralize all her attacks. Romantica was now somewhat confused and doubting life. She knew that algorithms required high ability or magic to use. Yet, Desire had been able to defeat all her attacks, proving he wasn't the person with the lowest magic but had power greater than hers. Thinking this, Romantica went from confusion to complete shock. Not wanting to waste more time here, having shown Romantica his true power was enough. Desire intended to deliver a finishing move to go find Azer. Knowing this, Romantica had to use all her power to defend. Romantica deployed many magic circles, attacking Desire relentlessly. But no matter how many there were, Desire could block them all. Truly, he wanted to do this to make Romantica grow stronger, so she wouldn't die as she had in the future he had experienced. Then Desire broke through all of Romantica's magic circles. She was extremely shocked by Desire's ability to reduce body friction. He told Romantica that from the beginning, he didn't see her as an enemy, and this was a race to the finish line, not a magic competition. With that, he summoned a fire magic circle, and Desire flew forward. And as physics teaches, an explosion creates a reactive force, and Romantica was the one who took the hit. She was blown back several meters. As for Azer, upon hearing that Romantica had been defeated by Desire, she had a very different view of him. But that didn't make her forget that she had to reach the finish line before Desire's pursuit. Seeing things weren't looking good, Azer fought with Desire. She deployed countless ice magic circles, but just as with Romantica, he used algorithms to break more than half of them. But Azer quickly struck before her ice magic was completely destroyed by Desire. He had neutralized and deflected the attack, avoiding hits in vulnerable spots. Better yet, he had gained control of these circles. Azer knew she couldn't fight back, so she used the last circles to merge them into a larger one and delivered a finishing blow to Desire. Desire calculated that he couldn't avoid it, so he made it land behind him, and he succeeded in changing its flight direction. Thanks to this, he used the explosion to fly to Azer, not to attack her but to reach the finish line. Although he won, he still wasn't satisfied because his ultimate goal was to make Azer and Romantica stronger to face the fierce battle ahead. A large young man named Donta was plotting something against Desire's team. After the exam ended, the judges and faculty council were assigning classes to students who passed the test. Originally, the Alpha class was reserved only for nobles, but the principal disagreed. He wanted something special for this year, so Dr. Bridget suggested a name to the principal, Desire. That day, students were checking the class lists together, and no one seemed particularly surprised. Only Romantica was shocked to the point of recoiling. She seemed a bit confident that she would be placed in the Alpha class based on her performance, but no, she was assigned to a Beta class for commoners. The facilities in Romantica's classroom were so dilapidated that she wondered why this place was still used for teaching had it been built a very long time ago. Even worse, she had a homeroom teacher with a somewhat dazed face. Especially, her class teacher looked down on students, thinking they were all just commoners. This made Romantica extremely frustrated, but that was only something that made her a little bitter. What made her more bitter was that she had to sit with Desire, whom she utterly despised. Seeing Romantica staring at him, Desire turned and smiled, making Romantica even more irritated. She couldn't understand why Desire, who ranked first in the competition, still had to study in this class. Desire also understood that even though he had won, he was still just a commoner. Despite Dr. Bridget's support, in the eyes of the teachers, he couldn't study in the Alpha class. This school had formed a wall separating the rich and poor, the noble class from commoners, so he didn't hope for much. Although it was called Beta class, he knew that this class was full of talented people whose power was no less than those in the Alpha class. Whatever the case, Desire had only one wish, to help everyone awaken their own potential. Unable to get along with her classmates, Romantica could only bury her face on the desk during recess. While feeling dejected, Donta came to chat with her, introducing that he studied in the Alpha class and had just joined the Academy's #1 team. His purpose for coming was to recruit talented people like her. Then he grabbed Romantica's hand, spewing sweet nothings. Romantica was very conflicted if she joined. She might be promoted to the Alpha class by the Academy. But Donta said there was one condition for her to join. She had to date him. Romantica was shocked. They had only met once, and he was already asking her to date him. Was this for real? Before Romantica could answer, Donta continued flirting. He said that someone of noble birth like Romantica studying in that dirty Beta class was simply unacceptable. Everything was too sudden, making her unsure how to react, so she postponed their conversation to another day. Before leaving, Donta gave Romantica a keepsake from his homeland. According to ancient belief, they would only give this keepsake when they had feelings for someone. He kept pushing the string into Romantica's hand, forcing her to take it. With no resistance, she just held it in her hand. As soon as Donta left, Desire came to congratulate her, but he went a bit overboard. Romantica was so startled that she fell to the ground. Desire then complimented her expression as extremely adorable. And Desire's purpose was also to recruit Romantica for his team. Already disliking him, Romantica immediately refused and said she would join Donta's team. Desire knew this would be a wrong decision for Romantica, so he left a letter, instructing her to find a place without people when reading it. With her flirtatious nature, Romantica thought Desire liked her, and the letter was a love confession. Romantica even made a cute but somewhat annoying gesture to tease Desire. He didn't care about her teasing, leaned close to her ear, and advised that after reading, she should destroy the letter. Hearing this, Romantica immediately lost her playful attitude. Unable to contain her curiosity, right after he left, Romantica read the letter right away. After reading, she felt very confused because Desire knew too many things about her. Without a break, Desire went to find a boy named Bram. As Desire recalled, in the future, he would become one of the Academy's fastest swordsmen. This boy could become even stronger if properly trained. Romantica came to find Desire. Before she could complain about anything, she was captivated by Bram. The boy looked so adorable that she wanted to take him home like a pet. Bram was about to have a practice session. The sword he chose to fight with today seemed a bit too large. Bram's opponent was a noble student from the Alpha class. The battle began. Bram continuously attacked to gain an advantage, but due to his poor stamina, he quickly tired out. Desire, sitting above, was puzzled why Bram chose such an enormous sword. Bram's opponent took advantage of his fatigue to attack continuously. Bram could do nothing but defend. He decided to swing his sword for a decisive blow, but because of his slow speed, his opponent dodged it. And then the noble disarmed Bram, knocking the sword from his hands, so he lost this match. Although victorious, the noble was bitter because Bram had hit him earlier, so he punched Bram's face mercilessly. Desire, sitting above, couldn't bear it anymore and rushed down to intervene, telling the noble he was despicable and only jealous of others' talents. Embarrassed to the point of anger, the noble raised his sword, wanting to teach Desire a lesson. But Desire blocked the sword with one hand and broke it in half. Looking into Desire's eyes, full of coldness and sharpness, the noble didn't dare do anything else and had to leave. Bram helped Desire bandage his wound. He felt extremely guilty that now Desire would become an enemy of the Alpha class. Desire just smiled and said this was his own choice. Bram didn't need to feel too guilty about it. Then the three introduced themselves to each other. Bram said he wouldn't forget this life-saving favor. If Desire needed anything, he would help with all his might. Watching Bram's figure leave, Romantica kept staring at him endlessly, forgetting that she had matters to resolve with Desire. The two went to a secluded place, and she asked why Desire knew so much about her. Desire said Romantica was only from a commoner background. The noble title was bought by her parents with money. The teachers at the school knew this, so she could only study in the beta class. And that Donta only viewed commoners as weeds and trash, so she should join Desire's team. Initially, she resisted, thinking he was threatening her with her background. But when she heard Bram was on the team, she had a different thought. Indeed, there was resistance, but it wasn't significant. Romantica felt Desire was mysterious, knowing everything about her family and possessing terrifying power in the entrance battle. So the two agreed to join forces. Though joining the same team, Romantica didn't forget to threaten to expose Desire to the entire academy. Meanwhile, with Bram, he was recalling his past. As a child, Bram had been given a precious sword by his mother. She told him that as long as the sword continued to glow, it meant his father still loved them both. After these words, the sword shattered into many pieces in Bram's hands. The terrifying nightmare made him wake up screaming. The next morning, Desire, Romantica, and Bram were outside Professor Bridget's room. Desire knocked on the door, and the professor came out to warmly greet everyone. Desire said they were here to form a team. Hearing this, the professor was delighted and invited all three in for snacks and drinks. Everyone chatted happily while eating. Professor Bridget seriously asked Desire why he wanted to form a team. Not disappointing the professor's expectations, Desire confidently said he wanted to form a team to win the upcoming promotion test to the Alpha class. Bold words aside, Desire knew that winning that competition was very difficult. Bram was very curious about the competition. He had never heard of it before. Professor Bridget explained to him about this promotion test. It would rank students in the school and was organized by academic year. Students would participate in rounds according to the Alpha and Beta class brackets, with teams competing against each other. But what the professor was talking about was just the preliminary round. The winning team would participate in the official round in the Shadow World. The ultimate winner would receive the title of single ranker, with the privilege of being promoted from Beta class to Alpha class. But there was a catch. Bridget said the chance of being promoted from Beta to Alpha class was very slim. In the history of the competition, no one had ever achieved it. Romantica agreed with the professor's opinion. She believed that from the start, alpha and beta class students already had a power disparity. Beating the alpha class was a huge issue. With his stubborn nature, how could Desire sit quietly? He encouraged his two teammates not to be too pessimistic and to focus on training their power. If beta class students won, it would change the entire perspective of teachers in the school towards beta class students. They would no longer dare to look down on beta class students. Bridget was a bit sensitive about his words because she was also a teacher at the academy. But she didn't criticize what he said. She hoped Desire would be a pioneer, and that the rotten state of this academy would change. Finally, the rule to form a team required the unanimous agreement of all team members, so she asked Bram and Romantica again if they were sure they wanted to form a team with Desire. Receiving affirmative answers from both, Desire's team was officially established. The three bid farewell to Professor Bridget, and Desire took his two friends to tour the facilities in the Alpha class training area. Indeed, the nobles had it different. The facilities were far superior. Alpha class members received systematic training in luxurious rooms. Looking back at the Beta class training area, it was just an old, dark, damp room far from home. This place resembled the habitat of animals more than a training room. Not wrong, in this dark room lived a large family of mice. They came out to greet the team, causing Bram to faint from fear. Romantica had to hug Desire because she was terrified of mice. Despite her extreme fear, since this was the room Professor Bridget had prepared for their training, they tried to clean it up. Bram had fainted, so he didn't have to clean. It was just Desire cleaning this room. When Bram regained consciousness, the room had returned to its original beauty. Bram felt extremely guilty because Desire's hand was injured, yet he still had to clean. As for Romantica, she looked completely exhausted. It must have been from fighting those dirty mice from earlier, draining too much energy. Now, Romantica's greatest wish was just to go back to her room to shower. Desire advised that she should start training right away for the goal of being promoted to the Alpha class. Going back a bit, when they were in the professor's room, she was still unsure whether to form a team with this hateful Desire. But because Desire teased her, she got embarrassed, which turned to anger, so she agreed immediately. The lesson learned from Romantica is not to make decisions when angry. Always keep a cool head. As for Bram, he very much wanted to be on the same team as his idol, so he nodded without thinking. Thus, a team was formed with 3 members. Now, Romantica deeply regretted teaming up with Desire because she had to follow his orders as the team leader. Without further ado, Desire took Romantica to the room for training. Bram was already in position, ready to train, a small person holding a sword twice the size of his body. The first training exercise for her was to increase the accuracy of her techniques. Romantica confidently deployed multiple magic circles, her attacks precisely hitting the positions Desire designated. However, Desire wanted Romantica to hit the center of the positions he specified, not just hit them. Romantica was a bit depressed and speechless because this guy was so demanding. Desire knew that in the future, Romantica would become a super elite mage, with every attack extremely precise. To stimulate the inner power within her, Desire teased her to provoke her competitive nature. Sure enough, Romantica was very frustrated, so she participated in Desire's second exercise. This exercise was to use wind magic to move a ball from where Romantica stood to a designated spot. Following Desire's guidance, Romantica deployed wind magic. A gentle breeze appeared, slowly lifting the ball. However, the ball only shot up high and then fell to the ground, not flying to the designated spot. Nevertheless, Desire was very pleased because Romantica had grasped the core issue of the training exercise. Desire's sincere praise made Romantica very shy, blushing because this was the first time she was complimented by the hateful Desire. As for Bram, Desire wasn't sure what to teach him because Bram was already an excellent swordsman. In the future, Bram would become a skilled swordsman. His slashes were neat and elegant. Desire wondered why Bram had chosen that enormous sword to fight with the Alpha class student. Desire analyzed for Bram that he should choose smaller, lighter swords for ease of use. It would also help him move more flexibly, which would be more suitable for him. Bram was reluctant to explain, but Desire said he should feel free to share, as it would also partly affect the team's battle strategy. So Bram said they should go to his room, and then they would understand the reason. Desire and Bram went there, ignoring Romantica, who was still practicing. Bram took out the sword his father had passed down to him. Sadly, he had never seen his father's face, as his father was a nobleman living in luxury. while his mother was just a commoner. Therefore, he was determined to train to become a swordsman, hoping that one day his abilities would allow him to meet his hidden father. However, Bram's mother had given him a cold dose of reality. She said it was best that he never meet his father. They were fundamentally different, from two separate worlds. Even sadder, Bram's mother fell gravely ill, and before she passed away, she never told Bram his father's name. Desire understood that having a child with a commoner was seen as tarnishing one's reputation. If Bram had gone to find his father, perhaps he wouldn't be here now. Moreover, Bram said his main purpose for studying here was to find more information about his father. He had taken the sword to be appraised at a shop in the city to find any additional information. But the information he discovered was that this sword was just a fake, never of sufficient quality for the nobility to use. This showed that Bram's father hadn't loved his mother as she thought. Bram couldn't contain his emotions. He angrily grabbed the sword and threw it to the ground mercilessly. Bram made a decision for himself. He would never pick up that sword again. The next morning, Bram trained with that enormous sword under Desire's supervision. As for Romantica, she had mastered the exercise Desire had given her, directing the ball perfectly. Suddenly, Desire leaned in close to Romantica, making her extremely shy. Desire was thinking about something that seemed very important. It turned out that Desire remembered that Donta had previously given Romantica a nobleman's sword, and he wanted Bram to look at it to confirm something. But Bram apologized because he couldn't show it to Desire since he had sold the sword yesterday. So they put their training on hold and went downtown together to find the shop where Bram had sold the sword. This street was very bustling and lively. It was familiar to Desire because before traveling back in time, he was a regular shopper in this area. The two stopped at a shop in a small alley. This shop was where Bram had sold the sword the previous day. Desire very much wanted to get the sword back, but Bram repeatedly refused. He said he didn't want that sword anymore. After reading the shop's buying and selling rules, both confidently pushed the door open and entered. Inside, the first person they met was a tall man. He was the guard there. This place seemed somewhat shady, because only when doing something improper would one need such a guard. Not to mention, the guard's face wasn't very friendly or decent. Desire got to the main point, saying he wanted to buy back the rapier that Bram had accidentally sold the day before. The shopkeeper's face didn't look very friendly either. He said there were no refunds here, but Desire insisted on buying the sword back. Seeing his determination, the shopkeeper raised the price to 40 silver coins. While yesterday he had bought it from Bram for just 3 silver coins, making over 10 times the profit. No wonder he got rich quickly. Desire explained his determination to buy back the sword because he recognized the pattern on it as belonging to nobility. The reason Desire dared to assert this was because he had seen Romantica holding a noble's sword with that pattern. Knowing he couldn't hide it anymore, the shopkeeper also admitted that this was a sword that nobles gave to their loved ones. It was an extremely precious item, but there was one problem. He didn't know how to draw the sword from its scabbard. Regarding the price to redeem the sword, 40 silver coins, Bram was very upset with this price. This was robbery, not trading anymore. In contrast to Bram, Desire was ready to take out 40 silver coins to pay the shopkeeper. Money exchanged hands, and Desire held the rapier. While the shopkeeper made a profit of 37 coins, everyone was happy. The shopkeeper didn't forget to taunt Desire that he wouldn't be able to open the rapier. Undiscouraged, Desire used his magic to read the characters engraved on the sword. He understood how to use this rapier. Desire handed the sword back to Bram, not forgetting to instruct him on how to draw it. It turned out that the way to use this rapier was to gently press the lever on the sword and then slowly pull it out. The shiny rapier emitted a beautiful light. It made those who saw it mesmerized by its beauty. Desire explained that the material making this rapier was from a metal lighter than feathers, but harder than iron and silver. This sword was a perfect choice for a swordsman who used agility like Bram. Now the shopkeeper realized the value of the sword. He regretted it terribly, so he ordered the tall guard at the door to stop the two from leaving. The shopkeeper said he would let them go if they agreed to leave the sword behind. But Desire was a very honest person. He said he had paid the exact amount the owner had asked to redeem the sword, so he had the right to take it home. Realizing that he could no longer intimidate with words, the shopkeeper ordered the guard to attack Desire and Bram. Desire nimbly dodged the guard's blow. Desire's attitude was very calm. While the tall man was surprised that he could dodge, Bram held the rapier in his hand, ready to duel. Seeing this, Desire reminded him of how he had boldly declared that he would never use the sword again, making Bram blush with embarrassment. Not that Desire wanted to see Bram's swordsmanship, telling him to confidently show his skills. This playground was his. Then Bram and the tall, muscular man began their battle. The guard launched deadly attacks, but Bram dodged each one thanks to his agile movement ability. Desire was quite confident in Bram's ability and sword technique, but was also worried because if Bram got hit by one blow, it would be a fatal one, leaving a very serious injury. Not disappointing Desire's expectations, Bram used his self-enhancement ability. A blue energy surrounded him. It helped him increase his movement ability, becoming more agile. Seeing this, the tall man gave a contemptuous smile and rushed in to attack frantically. But with his speed, Bram easily dodged the man's attacks. And not to be outdone, he continuously launched a series of slashes, making the giant only able to defend and not attack. Nevertheless, Bram's cuts were only enough to cause superficial scratches to the man. Desire thought that fighting this way for a long time wasn't a good idea. He needed to help Bram recognize and attack vital points. Worse, the man had figured out Bram's attacks, so Bram took a knee to the gut. He was in a lot of pain, about to collapse in the corner. But Desire reminded him to trust in his father. At that moment, Bram once again looked closely at the rapier. He saw the inscriptions engraved on the sword. Bram was somewhat surprised that Desire knew and could read those lines. But now wasn't the time to be moved. The task now was to win against this guy to escape from here. Bram rushed towards the giant. The man also raised his sword, intending to slash him. But Bram quickly realized this was just a feint, so he circled around behind him. The man also realized his plan had been exposed, so he swung his arm backward. Bram nimbly dodged it, and at the same time, he sliced the man's sword in half. At the end of the duel, Bram had won, while the giant was sprawled on the floor. Because of the dangerous action just now, Desire quickly ran over to check on him, but Bram said he was fine, all thanks to the sword his father had left behind. Although his henchman had lost, the shopkeeper was still very arrogant. He thought only his subordinate could open the large, heavy iron door. But he had underestimated Bram and Desire. They didn't need to open the door to get out of here. Bram used his sword to cut the door in half, and like a soldier returning from the battlefield, proudly walked outside with his father's sword. Once outside, Desire bought Bram a skewer of grilled meat as a reward for his performance earlier. Receiving the skewer, Bram's eyes welled up with tears, because after going through so much, thinking he was lost on the path he had chosen, now he had found a good teammate like Desire. He silently thanked Desire and his parents, hoping that they would watch over every step he took from above. While Desire took Bram to reclaim the rapier, Romantica was still diligently practicing to guide the ball to the designated position. Practice makes perfect. Finally, the ball obeyed and went to its proper place. Thanks to Desire's exercises, her attacks with wind magic had significantly increased in accuracy. She was very happy but didn't know who to share it with because her beloved teammates hadn't returned yet. So Romantica went to the Alpha class training area. She came here with the purpose of finding Donta. When she met Donta, they arranged to meet at an upscale restaurant in the academy. The meal was full of luxury and splendor for the noble class. Donta thought this was a date between the two, so he prepared a very sumptuous meal. As for Romantica, she just innocently ate because she was invited. After finishing eating, Romantica revealed the purpose of today's meeting. She returned the item that Donta had given her before and declined his invitation to join his team. Donta was a bit surprised and asked why Romantica refused to join him. Romantica replied that she already had her own team. The team leader had helped her a lot, and she didn't want to disappoint the leader's expectations. Romantica added that Donta was a person who disliked commoners, even hated them, while Romantica came from a common background. After hearing all the reasons, Donta still consoled himself that perhaps Romantica was just joking, but she affirmed once more that she was speaking sincerely. Donta swore that he would never invite her to another meal. Romantica also mentioned that her team would soon be promoted to the Alpha class. Hearing this, the flame of hatred rose within Donta. He vowed to crush Romantica's team, sparing no one. Before leaving, she also thanked Donta for the meal. It was precisely this seemingly normal action that ignited the flame of hatred in Donta's heart even higher. The reason Donta hated commoners was because his father had been beheaded by those commoners. That painful image would never be forgotten throughout his life. From there came the hatred he harbors today. The promotion test that everyone had been looking forward to was now taking place. The three Desire, Bram, and Romantica defeated one team after another. From 150th position in the rankings, they gradually climbed to 30th place in the competition. Thanks to these battles, the coordination of all three became increasingly seamless. Desire believed that battles from the top 30 onwards would be the real battles. On this side, Professor Bridget was very surprised by the high-level coordination of the three. And it must be said, the higher they climbed, the more people would target their team, so they needed to be more cautious. Indeed, the Alpha class instructor had become furious when the Beta class students of Desire's team had reached the top 30 of the competition. Never before had a commoner studied in the Alpha class. He ordered the Alpha class teams to defeat Desire's group, thwarting their plan to rank up from Beta class to Alpha class. And more importantly, they must not let them win the single ranker title. It would be a disgrace to the Alpha class if they lost to a Beta class team. The homeroom teacher remembered that Azer had fought with Desire before, and she had the ability to defeat Desire, so the teacher assigned her as the leader of Blue Moon. Carrying this heavy responsibility on her shoulders, Azer was also very bitter about her previous loss to Desire. That was her first defeat on the battlefield. She vowed to defeat Desire to redeem this failure. Leaving the teacher's room, she was walking in the corridor when she met two people, Donta and Palm. They expressed that they wanted to operate independently. Donta had a grudge against Romantica and asked permission to settle it personally. As for Palm, he had a grudge against the young swordsman Bram, so the